Hey guys, welcome to Celia's playlist. Today I am here with Panic Man Dan, who is a singer-songwriter from the southeast of England. So, Dan, what is the southeast of England? What does that mean?
Well,
I'm not from there.
it's still close enough to London to be to be very urban, but it's just out in the countryside enough to be, green and leafy and hilly. So I live out in a small village, but we can only be 30 or 40 miles from London. Um, I should think so. We're in American terms very, very, very close to the big city. Very close.
That's
Um,
kind of like me in New York. So I'm far enough that I have a backyard, but close enough that I can get there,
right, right.
without being a problem.
Uh, I think it's probably the best way to be if you need to stay sane.
I agree wholeheartedly. So,
Yeah.
Dan, tell us a little bit about you and like your background and I guess where Panic Man Dan came from.
Panic Man Dan. Shall I start with the name then? Um,
Sure.
well, I needed to find a name. My name's Dan Austin, as you know, and I needed to find something else because I tried to release stuff as Dan Austin, and there was a producer not far from me who was called Dan Austin, and there is a Danny Austin in the States who's successfully released quite a lot of stuff. He's a country artist, I think. And then the sort of straw that broke the camel's back was when a much younger player got in touch. I had a profile on a platform called Reverb Nation. Do you know Reverb Nation? So I was on Reverb Nation, and this boy got in touch. Fair play to him, it's reasonable enough. Said, can I pay you for your profile name, please? He said, because clearly you haven't been successful enough, sort of thing. It was a bit cheeky. Um, and I sort of said, well, no, I'm going to keep it as it is. But it got me thinking. And my friends, when I was younger, used to uncharitably call me Panic Man Dan behind my back. Okay, because of apparently I would agitate and get anxious about just about everything. It didn't matter what it was. Going down the pub, the next gig, picking up a guitar. So I thought, well, I can probably make use of this. Is there another Panic Man Dan around? And I talked to my wife about it. I said, "What do you think about Panic Man Dan? It's got a ring to it." She said, "Well, yeah, it's certainly got a ring to it. Is that the ring you want?" And I thought, well, why not? Panic Man Dan, and it's kind of stuck. So, other than that, I started off in my 20s. I'm 52 now. In my 20s, I was playing in bands in the Oxford area, and we were trying to, a particular band, we were very focused on kind of melodic indie, indie rock, I suppose, along the Coldplay type vein, a bit heavier, a bit more like Manson or someone like that. So, and the band, before I joined the band, they'd been really, really trying hard to get signed. And when I joined, they had kind of not run out of energy, but they were getting disillusioned with record companies saying they would turn up and not turning up. And we were going and doing showcase gigs in London and stuff. And to be honest with you, I wasn't too bothered about the getting signed stuff. I was just enjoying the social side of music. I was living at Oxford has a great small music scene. It has great small venues that lock you in and let you drink until the wee hours of the morning and things like that once you've played. So I had to do something once that I stayed friends with all the members of the band, but they really had had enough. And the way we used to write songs was we used to say, if the song works on acoustic guitars, it's probably going to be a good enough song to put the band to. If we can't
Mm.
get it to work on an acoustic guitar, it's probably not going to be a good enough song that we want to try and take it forward. So I just ended up going out and playing open mic nights, running an open mic night myself, and just socializing with music. And one of the best things that I did um, was in Oxford that you were able to do when I was living in Oxford then was you could just strap the guitar on your back and you could go walking off to your gig and have a few drinks, play with some other like-minded musos and people that because it's Oxford, people would sort of come and go from the gig, and you just have a great night just socializing with music. Um, so I never really wanted it to stop, but I never got round to really recording us. best I could. I didn't feel anyway. So I toyed with the idea of recording myself as much as possible, got some decent gear, but it wasn't, I'm sure you've heard this many times, it wasn't really until lockdown that I was triggered into thinking, right, well, I haven't actually bothered to enlist anybody professional yet. So what I was doing before was recording roughs and just releasing those, basically thinking that I should be good enough at producing and mixing myself, that I should learn how to do that stuff. But what I then started to do was take these roughs to the guy in the studio in Oxford. And the first time I went in was not far from my 50th birthday, because I was treating myself. And I went in and he told me what to do. He knew what to do. I'd sent him the roughs beforehand. And I said, don't I need to do this? Don't I need to do that? You know, I was being classic Panic Man Dan, more panic than Dan or man. And he just got the whole thing sounding better than I could have imagined it was ever going to. So just the acoustic guitar and voice. And I came out of this session just buzzing and so happy, because he was saying, you know, we must do this again, you know, because I do feel that you can sing well, I do feel that you can play, and we can do something with this. And he had taken the whole project to a level that I had never imagined could get to. So we've been there ever since, just recording stuff for the sake of recording stuff, releasing stuff for the sake of releasing stuff, unfortunately with a limited social network because of my day job. Just trying to get the music to do whatever it's going to do. I do apply for sync opportunities and things like that, completely unsuccessfully, I have to say. But even doing that, it's, you know, it's fun and it's interesting. So that, yes, that's kind of where I'm at now, I think.
I feel you. I have a couple of follow-ups to the information that you just have put forward. I guess let's start with the recording, and then I want
Yeah.
to get into the limits that you have after that. So
Yeah.
I feel like one of the barriers that a lot of people have is they feel like they have to do it themselves, and that could be a pro or it could be a con.
I
So I know
agree.
that you started doing it yourself and then moved to working with a producer.
Hmm.
You know, how did that process kind of evolve, and how did that go for you as an artist? Because I know that, it's trusting someone with your vision and your
Yeah.
ideas.
So it was, first of all, one of the friends I was in the band with has always been somebody I've consulted with over whatever I've recorded or anything. And he's great. He's got a great set of ears. He's very honest. So he listened to some of my mixes and said, you know, why don't you go and record them with Nick, who's the producer engineer? And I always ruled it out because of cost. So, and then I thought, no, actually, I deserve this. Now I'm 50. If I don't do it, I'm never going to do it, you know. Um, and he is a very sensitive producer engineer. When I say he told me what to do, he said, this is going to be your headphone mix. Sing it the way you want to sing it. This is the way we're going to set your guitar mics up for now. Anything you don't like will change. And he took away that. So this is what I would say, I think, crucially, to somebody who tries to do it all themselves, is one of these guys who's really good, they simply take that responsibility away from you for having to watch the meters, watch the needles, set up the mixes, and get all that stuff right yourself. But also, he's someone who edits audio and records audio 24, not 24/7, but, you know, 12 hours. It really is 12 hours a day in his case, I'm afraid. And how can I compare with that? How can I match that? He has a technical knowledge. I'm sure you have to have a lot of this technical knowledge as well in your sphere, of things like compression, metering, sort of the audio spread, panning, things like that, that I can make a reasonable fist of it. I can do it and get it to sound just fine. It'll still sound like a decent song, but I'm not doing what he's doing. And he does it so quickly, so easily, and in such a focused way. I'm lucky with him. I was lucky to get a space with him, actually. I think it was probably because my friend was recording with him, because he records, I think for two of the members of Radiohead, their solo projects. So not Radiohead as a band.
Mm-hmm.
They live in Oxford, or I think at least two of them live in Oxford anyway. So they drop in and record their solo stuff with him.
Very
So
cool.
he's got quite a good pedigree. Um, but interestingly, doesn't charge the earth. Now, it's so I think you'd probably like to hear the sound of this. He and the mastering engineer I work with, so they all work with big names of one sort or another. But I said, how can you do this? I'm just a small guy, you know. I, you're charging me local rates. You've got all these big customers, major label customers. What's this all about? They said, you're the fun stuff. And I thought, that's nice.
Yes.
They said, you're the fun stuff. And you're actually their bread and butter. Well, you know, the major labels can be fickle. It can be difficult dealing with one of their clients, because suddenly they might decide they want to use the other mastering engineer when they've booked you in for a month or something. However, you're locals, you're our friends, we know you. So of course we're not going to overcharge you. We want to work with you. We want this grassroots stuff. That hadn't occurred to me. It's interesting, isn't it?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever been able to put that into words. Because, like, I always say that people are like, why are you giving me a deal? And I'm like, because I genuinely support what you're doing. And it's like a fun
I
thing.
know.
And
And
I guess that on the musician side, like, I guess that was also not like, because obviously I do photo, video, I have like
yeah,
my audio set up here, but that's not something that I guess the performers think about, because I can do my big jobs, but sometimes those are the least creative jobs, you know?
yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? And that, I think that's what I needed, his direction, and still need his direction, because the music is moving into slightly different areas now, because I'm starting to play percussion and bass on it as well. So it's got a bit more of what I'm releasing in the next couple of months. It's got a bit more of a rhythm section to it, and it's evolving at the moment, which I think is hilarious, because it should have been evolving 20 years ago.
Hey,
Why
it's all about
now?
timing. It's all about timing.
Timing, yeah. What?
I wanna pivot real quick, because I wanna make
Yeah,
sure that we
please do.
get the next point in, because you do a lot of singer songwriter, acoustic guitar,
Mhm.
singing, but I know that you have some limitations on actually getting your music out there, and
Yeah,
this is because you're a teacher, and
yeah.
I have a few friends in my local scene that are also teachers. I'm not
Mm.
sure if you're teaching at a school or if you're teaching lessons privately, but what kind of limits does that give you? Because yes, you're making music full time as a musician, but you have your own set of standards that you kind of have to like live within by doing that.
Yeah. So the schools, just to put you in the picture from a sort of legal point of view, the schools make you sign to a contract that says you are going to be very careful with what you do online. They don't specify exactly what that is. They specify exactly what that can't be, like strong political opinions, anything explicit, etc., etc., etc. So that's the start of it. And the I did mention to our human resources lady, when I just started working for this school, I said, I do have some social networking sites because I do music stuff. And I said, I'll let you know the links. I'll give you the links. She said, I said, it's, you know, there's nothing outrageous on there. It's really just about releases and information and observational type stuff. And she said that's good, because she said you can be absolutely sure they'll find you. And she left it there, that kind of spooky comment, they will find you. Now I've been working at this school for a year and a half now, and as far as I know, they haven't found me yet. And my friends' kids are at a couple of my friends' kids are at this school, and they know what I do, and they have managed to keep their mouths shut and not tell anybody else, I think. So it's going to break sometime. but I haven't. So the limitations are those. I do have to be careful. I couldn't go on and say too much in a video about a breakup or offer anything too personal. I'm going to have to work out how I work around that a bit more. But so the teacher previous to me at the school was an online preacher,
Ah.
and I think he was. I mean, I haven't seen his stuff. I think it was very much very strongly worded. Not nothing extremist or anything like that. He was an African preacher, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and very proud of what he was doing. But the boys found him, and
Mm-hmm.
it then became a sort of, it made him a figure of fun. And I think they just kept repeating stuff at him again and again and drove him
Mm.
slowly crazy, you know. Um, but at the same time, they drove him slightly crazy, but they did like him. I know they liked him. But the point is, when they told me, oh yeah, we found his stuff out on YouTube, I thought, well, of course, why wouldn't you? And you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do your due diligence on all of your teachers, just in case you find any dirt that you can use, just in case you find anything you can get away with, or use as leverage if homework comes in late or something like that. Yeah, it's terrifying. But at the same time, I do teach nice kids, I would say so, but I need to be a bit careful. But it'll come out sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime somebody's going to surf across it, or one of my friends is going to blab, or I'm going to be playing a gig. I play gigs in the local area, and I've got Panic Man Dan on my guitar, so they're going to
Uh-huh.
go, right, let's have a look and see if he exists online. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the milder it is, the milder my content is, and the sort of less frequent, probably the better for me. But the
That's
schools
fair.
do say these things.
I mean, that's something that like I feel like people have to take into consideration because I feel like when people figure out like, and this is probably not your route, but because you're working in like a school system versus like
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
private lessons or something, a lot of people turn to lessons as the I want to do music full time solution,
yeah,
which is slightly different, but I
yeah,
don't think they think about that part of it when they are thinking about, oh, I'm going to start doing lessons because
yeah,
you're now getting into the educational areas, and where are most of the educational learners? It's mostly kids, it's mostly young people, and like obviously there's people of all ages that want to learn instruments. Like I'm probably going to pick up keys again at some
yeah.
point,
Do
but
it, do it.
I have to get a keyboard first.
Treat yourself to
um,
a Hammond organ. Treat yourself to a Hammond. They're amazing.
maybe, and we'll have to talk. But
Yeah,
it has its own set of rules, and it's
yeah,
how do I put myself out there while not being able to fully put myself out there. So I'm
yeah,
always interested to hear like the background of how that works for everyone, and
yeah,
share that because people think all the time, oh, I'll just start teaching guitar lessons or something.
yeah. So I teach English as an additional language, so it's a
Mm-hmm.
complete departure from the music stuff. Mostly to a mostly very well-mannered group of Asian students, um, who are they're quite compliant.
Mm-hmm.
They're lovely. So I don't think I'd have too many problems there. But how do you get it right? I found nothing online that gives me really good guidelines about how to have a good sort of Instagram profile and teach. Can I do a reel and knowing that they'll find it and have it be, I'm kind of working on ideas. So if I was talking about the quality of a product, or talking about maybe how to write a particular type of song, if I felt that was useful, or just talking about logic or different settings I was using, I suppose that would be within the realms of reason. But I certainly wouldn't want to be getting into spats with, not that I would anyway, really, but with other people on Instagram. See the tear ups that people get into online, and I just think, oh no, this stuff's there forever.
That's fair.
It could be a future employer looking at it.
It's
That's
very
the
true.
thing. Um,
Yeah, it's like it's a hard spot because like it's one of those things where like do you just make a profile that's private? Do
Yeah.
you do something educational? But is education really what you want to be doing? There's a lot of questions to be asked, and like, things that you have to think about. So I appreciate you giving us a little bit of insight into I
Yeah.
guess your world of that, because that's something you probably deal with on the daily.
And I also look with envy at the younger generation of musicians and how they just automatically utilize these tools to get these huge numbers of streams and likes and hits, and it really is incredible. But it's automatic to them, isn't it? It's almost like the YouTube and the Spotify comes first, and then that once that's established, they develop and develop and develop as musicians get better and better and better and better. um, but they are able to create very very audience friendly material very easily. But one of the good things about the music scene now, I mean, even though it's saturated, Spotify is saturated, isn't it? Let's be honest, there is so much stuff. um, and it's difficult to try and get anything to swim its way through there. Um, but we've got a situation where what kids seem to want more from artists, which was never the case when I was growing up. They want honest content, don't they? So I see all these great artists like Larkin Poe, or I think even Bonnie Raitt and people like that. Just them and a mobile phone,
Yep.
releasing a little jam or a little something. And in the old days when I first saw that stuff, I thought, why do they do that? That doesn't sound professional enough. And now it makes sense to me because they're releasing something that's, I mean, for want of a better word, sort of organic, isn't it?
Yep.
It's real. It's a moment in their lives, and that's what people really connect with nowadays. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. She's doing that kind of stuff all the time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose she was doing that from very early on as well. And sometimes it's just her at a party or something like that, but the fans just absolutely lap it up. I suppose they've got to be careful though, haven't they, not to release anything that
Mm-hmm.
might be a new song idea or something that somebody else could fly off with. So there must be a lot of thought going into that real stuff.
There is a lot of
That look,
thought
that
with those type of things, definitely. And also like
has to be, doesn't it?
also with like I actually had a stalker situation, believe it or not. Someone came and slashed my tires because also letting people know where you are, or like what types of details that you do or don't
Yeah,
release about
yeah.
yourself.
So
So like when it gets to that point of like getting through an audience threshold, but also just internet safety, you have to keep that part in mind as well.
So I've got this dilemma right now. I've got a gig
Mm-hmm.
next week, okay, with a promoter who I really like, who called me up again recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to stand up there with an acoustic guitar, do an opening set, but I'm already procrastinating about who to let know about this and how to announce it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will be in my house looking after the dogs and things like that. I have a family member coming over, but it's exactly what you're saying. That situation that you're in is absolutely terrifying. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody slashes the tires. I mean, what? How do you? I mean, that's an awful thing to have on your mind.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't realize how much it was still bothering me because now at the time of filming, this is February and that happened in September. Someone
yeah,
brought up a situation yesterday, and I didn't realize like how much anxiety still stays with you from that. And
yeah,
going through these different kinds of situations, as well as like pushing myself to limits over time, has allowed me to get to a point where like this is why I coach, this is why I consult, because people are
yeah,
going through all of these different struggles all the time. Like even with what you're saying of like having your own set of limits, like how do I work around the limits?
yeah.
Those are things that the more situations you get into, and I've done a lot of different things in my career, you learn a lot. Which actually leads me to the final question I'm going to ask you today, because
Oh,
we this is great stuff that we're getting into. I might have to have you back down the line, because like
I would love
you're a
to.
great speaker. You're a great
This is
speaker.
fun. This is
Yeah.
fun. This is what
I'm
I need
glad
in
you're
my
having
life.
a good time. I love having these kind of conversations, but I guess the question I'm going to ask is one that I've been asking everyone. If you had someone come up to you, and this blanket statement, however you want to take it, and they come up to you and they ask you, what is your piece of advice for me to start? Whether it's music, whether it's producing, whether it's performing, however you want to take it. What is your piece of advice?
Okay. So with songwriting,
Hmm.
can I choose songwriting? Is that all right?
Yeah, go for
So,
it.
so,
I'm however you want to answer it.
so one of the things I notice with songwriters who do the same kind of thing as me, they do singer-songwriter uh, music. Um, they try and do the whole thing
Hmm.
when they're playing the guitar. They try and do everything. They try and set the rhythm. They try and write the lyrics. They try and do the whole thing. And what they're asking themselves to do is to be incredibly resourceful beyond anything I could be, because what you're doing is you're essentially being a drum kit, you're beating out a rhythm on your guitar. You are then trying to, at the same time as you're doing that, creatively come up with a good rhythm and melody for your lyrics, come up with the lyrics themselves, and create a whole structure of a song. Um, and are you okay there? Are you still there, Celia? Can
Yeah,
you
I'm here. I'm just frozen.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay,
Just
cool.
keep going. Keep going.
So if there's anything I would say has helped me write better songs, it has been to come up with that initial idea, and then I break it right down. I make sure that what from that point on, if I've got a chord sequence or something like that, that goes into a recording, and I don't touch the guitar again until that song or the main idea of that song is written. Because all I want to do is sing over the top of it. And if I sing over the top of it, I'm much more likely to come up with an interesting rhythm to what I'm singing, or an interesting melody to what I'm singing. And I can play with the melody and the rhythm because because it's already recorded, and I can just do it over the top. Or sometimes, one other tip that somebody else told me, which was a great one, was if you like the rhythm of a particular song, use BPM, which is an app that you might know of. Do you know BPM? But basically, it's just a tap
I've heard
tempo
of
app,
it.
so you can just tap along and use that rhythm, because that rhythm has been successful in another song. That rhythm has been the basis of making another song great. Doesn't matter what you do after that, but use that rhythm. Use a metronome to start your writing sometimes.
BPM
Just
counter,
use that.
right?
Sorry?
Like this?
Yeah, yeah,
BPM
yeah,
counter
yeah,
like this?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the
Cool.
one. And so once you've got that rhythm, and because you're not ripping any artist off by using a rhythm, because they're how many you can only really operate between 20 beats per minute and 160 or something like that. So I find the metronome is a brilliant writing tool, because it's just beating out that simple rhythm, and I can scat over it, and I can kind of make little melodies over it and things like that. So I would say to singer-songwriters, stop doing everything at once on the guitar. That's why you get frustrated and you throw the thing down, is because get your chord sequence, get your idea, record that, and then do the rest of the stuff with your voice and your lyric writing, and that's when it gets to be really fun, and you've got a greater chance of coming up with some, you know, um, modicum of originality in there, um, because half of it's already done for you. But it amazes me when people can write the whole song on a guitar and things, but I think they probably completely waste themselves in the process. Oh, I can't do that again. That's killed me.
Dan, I love that advice because, like, if I was ever gonna sit down and write something, I don't know how I would even start writing something. So I like the idea of, like, being able to tap it out on the BPM thing and, like,
Yeah,
let
steal
yourself
a rhythm,
develop.
steal a rhythm, but you're not stealing.
That's funny. So Dan, I know you have limited places that people can actually find you, but where can they, follow along the journey?
So I am on Facebook.com. I probably need to send you the link, don't I? Panic Man Dan Music is the page. That's where I'll post most of the stuff. Instagram, Panic Man Dan. Um, I'm on all major streaming platforms because of, thank you. I'm going to say this, sorry, it's not really meant to be a plug, but thank you, DistroKid.
We love
Because
DistroKid.
DistroKid Oh, you do? Oh, good, good, because
Yeah.
DistroKid are getting a heavy press at the moment for raising their prices by $3 or something.
I mean,
But
like, I
I'm
understand, but like, DistroKid also is a very like useful tool for anyone that doesn't know what DistroKid is, because it allows you
yeah,
to get your music out there on different platforms, whether
I
it is
know.
a original piece or the cover musicians that I work with have been able to use that, and they get the
And they
clearances
use
for you.
DistroKid, do they? But
Mm-hmm.
I heard another interesting thing about DistroKid from watching YouTube about various different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really verify this, but it said that DistroKid, compared to some other platforms,
Mm-hmm.
is A, hugely efficient at getting the stuff out onto the other streaming platforms, but that some of the other distributors, they don't pay out in the same way that DistroKid do. People have had
Interesting.
problems getting people have problems getting their quarterly payments and things like that.
Hmm.
Now, I can't be dealing with that. I need to be with the one who's supposed to be the most reliable. And DistroKid. I'm sure some of the other ones, the other distributors, have got more bells and whistles and probably look nicer. The DistroKid platform is very basic looking, isn't it? But it. I don't mind basic.
I
I'm
totally
a
get that.
52-year-old technophobe.
Well, hey, maybe someone in the comments will be able to tell us more about other things in the future. But Dan,
Yeah,
I really appreciate you sitting down with me today. We had a lot of interesting things that we were able to get into, and you have such
I
cool
agree.
stories. So thank you so much for joining me.
And I'm following your stories as well. Thank you so
Oh,
much,
thank
Celia.
you.
It's been
And
lovely to finally.
oh yeah, I'm so glad we got to hang out. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. After all those chats and me bugging you on Instagram messages and stuff, you now know that I'm not a complete weirdo or psycho or whatever, in light of what you told me.
I mean, I didn't think that you were. I didn't think that you were. But I want to thank you one more time, and I want to
Yeah.
thank everyone for watching today. And I will be here with the next interview. So, bye, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Celia.
joining us.